Hello, everybody. How's it going? Hello, hello, hello. If you could pretty please drop a number one. That way I know that you can hear me and that I'm not just talking to myself. But if you follow me, then you know I'm quite the advocate of that. I'm quite a fan of it myself, and I do talk back. Sometimes I'm sassy, sometimes I'm not. Let me get over this little thing right here. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Aaron. Hey, Chrissy. It's good seeing you, Chrissy. Thanks for emailing me. It was good talking to you. Hello, Tori. Hello, Indy. Welcome, our wonderful, wonderful moderators and friends to the sofa. They keep the cushions fluffed and me in order. I hope y'all are doing well. Hey, Kath. Hey, Sherry. Hey, LG. Hey, Sherry. Okay, now already my eyes are going. I changed my background on here to I had it in dark mode, and now I've switched it to whatever, like light mode or whatever. I can see much better now. But now it's 7 o'clock and my eyes are tired thing. So if I'm like squinting this or doing this number, that's what I'm doing. Hey Ann, hey Linus. I know, Tori, isn't the green doing good? You know what I think it is? Whenever I wear a black shirt, and whoever, like, if anybody knows how this stuff works better than I do, which is probably most of you, I think it's when I wear a black shirt that it does better. Does that have something to do with it? Hey, Rhonda. Hey, Ginger. Thanks. Kimberly says when I saw you right 3 years ago, I was like, ugh, internal cringe. I was like, oh, I bet I was I'm cringy now too. Hey, Sandy. Hey, Sue. I hope everybody's doing well. Christy, what's up? Hey, Kelly, Michigan. So, yeah. Yeah, okay, so yeah, this is what I'm gonna wear. I always try and usually wear a black shirt for this very reason. Robin says there's a crisis. I can't find Dolly cheesecake here. That is something to be concerned about. Hey Shayna, how's it going? I know, and you know what else? Whenever I wear black, it helps hide like my little tummy. It makes everything just kind of look nice and flat, and that's what I like. Okay, wait, hold on. You said black absorbs the on a green reflected light that causes halo effect. Black is the absolute best color to wear. Okay, thank you. 100% do this. How do I say your name? I don't. How do I? What do you go? How do I say your name so that I know? And if you're like what do you like to go by? Because I need to hire probably to be my YouTuber. Hey, just let me know. I can help you out with stuff, Chrissy. You don't have to hire me. So yeah, today. Wait, hold on. Let me see what this is. Okay, cool. We are going to go over some like of the basics of this case going on. So I've been watching it in the background, and when I say in the background, just like with things that I've been doing, whatever. I have not watched a lot of it today, but yesterday I kind of went down into it, and I was like, huh. So what I want to do is I picked out a few clips to go over. Yes, it would probably be considered the most salacious so far, but it's going to be like a 911 phone call. It's going to be the opening. It's going to be that kind of thing, right? We'll speed it up on some of them, maybe not the 911 phone call, but the opening and whatnot. And we'll just kind of listen to the whatever. We're going to try and condense it down to like about an hour tonight. And I'm going to read you a quick little synopsis of this going on. And then I'll tell you like my initial thoughts or whatever. Because I had watched this. Oh, wait, I missed it. Mac Pigeon. Is it just spelled backward? Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm reading. Literally, that's tricky. That's tricky. I have like avoided trying to even say, like, I was like, I don't want to like say it wrong and offend them or whatever. I don't know or whatever. So I was like, I'm just gonna ask. Never heard. Lesson learned. I should have asked sooner. I love it. Okay, hold on one second. Tori says I laughed at his defense. Honestly, same, right? Same. So let me do this. Let me switch over to this thing. I'm not going to put this up. I'm just going to read it. And this is like a thing from Daily Mail. It's going to kind of break down very quickly what we're talking about for those who haven't been watching it. So this is currently going on right now. Okay. This is in, hold your breath, Florida. It's just one of those things. And let's see, here we go. So Florida teenager has been accused of taking the life of his mother. One of the things that's going around about this is how he just is, there's not much like no emotion about this, right? His name's Collin Griffith. He's 17 years old. His mother's name was Catherine Griffith. She was 39. She was found with a knife in the neck. Honestly, from my understanding, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, almost decapitated. Okay. Now this was in Auburndale, Florida, September 8th, 2024. Okay, so let me go down a little bit more because this isn't his first time at the rodeo. Okay, so Sunday evening, September 8th last year, it was the same time that the defendant viciously and savagely unleashed his full fury and hatred towards his mother upon her. Now, this is opening statements that I'm reading here from an article. When he stabbed her with such force that the knife went shooting through her neck muscles, through her esophagus, through her trachea, through her thyroid cartilage, and shot out the other side of her neck. The prosecutor added that Catherine was stabbed. She began to bleed and bleed profusely through the huge gash in her neck. While she bled out, he watched as the blood and life drained from her body. Now, they also referenced a disturbing conversation that Collin had with his paternal grandfather leading up to his mother's death, telling the court that this was exactly what the defendant meant to do. There's a lot of signs with this one of him, saying that he was going to do this, okay? And let me just switch over here. Actually, let me show you this real quick. Hold on one second. Present. Let me show this to you because that shows the mom and the victim and all that. Hey, Down Under. SB notice of appeal has not been filed. Interesting. Thank you for the little updates you send me, Down Under. I appreciate it. I know I don't always get to respond, but I get them and I appreciate it. Here we go. Okay, so you see here, that is the mother, and that's him right there. That's the victim. And yeah. More than anything else, I want to slit her throat and feel her bleed out and feel the life leave her body. That's how much I hate her, he told his grandfather. Now, just a year, but then this is the part right here. Just a year before, Catherine had bailed her son out of jail for fatally shooting his father, Charles Griffith, 43, on Valentine's Day, 2023, an act that he claimed was self-defense. Levine said that while Catherine tried to make up for lost time with her son, who moved from Oklahoma to her home in Florida, the pair started to clash. Levine insisted that the mother and son's relationship worsened leading up to her final day, as Catherine gave her son several ultimatums in exchange for him to complete household chores. At one point, he read a text that Catherine sent to her son between 12 and 12:29 p.m. the day she died. In the message, Catherine appeared to threaten her son with information she had about the death of his father, telling him that she would pass it along, all because you didn't help me mount a bookshelf. Collin, the recordings of you admitting to killing your father and planning the murder, there are 4 different instances from my Ring camera, are all going to Bob, Susie, Amanda, and Chris at 3 p.m. today, Catherine wrote to Collin. That's him. And here's the father. Plus, the recovered audio from Chuck's iCloud where you told your dad you hated me and I was an evil bee are being sent too. My dad is sending his recordings of you telling him how you planned my murder back in February, all because you didn't help me do the bookshelf. So November 2023, they get into a verbal altercation. It grows physical. He attacked her. He stomped her. He was arrested. He was taken to jail. He was released. Collin's attorney, Thornhill, approached the stand. She told a very different story, alleging that Catherine caused a lot of the issues between her and her son. Catherine has threatened or done harm to other people, including Collin. His lawyer also noted that the late mother often instigated arguments, struggled with a drinking and pill problem, and was estranged from her family. There you go. Collin previously told police that his mother handed him the weapon in an envelope filled with all the important papers you need if I'm gone. Catherine then pointed the firearm at her son and stated she was going to shoot him or herself or both before handing the gun to Collin, telling him, "Just shoot me." At the time, Collin reported the incident to school administrators, who then contacted police. Catherine went on to deny the allegations, and according to Thornhill, the police believed her and not Collin. His attorney insisted that Collin repeatedly said he didn't feel safe around his mom. Following that domestic violence incident, Collin said that he would go back to live with his mother, but would make sure he defended himself if he needed to. Here's him again. I'm just going to kind of keep going here. After he was taken to jail following the incident, Thornhill said the police forced Collin to ride home with his mother, even after Catherine made him so marches with weights above his head. Police body cam revealed, according to Law and Crime. She went on to reveal that both Collin and Catherine had been Baker Acted, a state law that allows individuals to be involuntarily committed if they are a threat to the public or themselves. 6 months after his father's death, Collin was back in custody under Florida's Baker Act after threatening to kill himself or stab or shoot his mother. All is not well at home, clearly, Thornhill said. Collin initially told police that his mother fell on the weapon, and then the teen has since been charged with her murder. Witnesses reported seeing Griffith dragging his mom out of the house by her hair 2 hours earlier, and a medical examiner found she had been stabbed twice in the neck. Here we go again with them. The late mother's social media posts often appeared to reference her familial turmoil, but in one heartbreaking post, she vowed to live life to the fullest. So here, that's the gist of it right there. Let's go over here. Let's do this. Let's come back to y'all for a second. There we are. And let me just catch up here. So, and let me come over here to this right here. Okay, where are we at? Oh, here we are. Yeah, so just to recap, he killed his father, basically got off of that charge, talking about it was self-defense. The mom has tea on him because, well, number one, she probably knows, but number two, hold on one second. He allegedly said some stuff that was caught on like Ring camera, things of this nature, right? So things are not going well here. The defense will, present number one that she fell on the knife, which, I mean, hey, you know what? We've seen somebody try and claim that their boyfriend got into a suitcase and did himself in that way, right? So why not say that she fell on the knife? Clearly, it sounds like there is turmoil between them. Yeah. Does that mean that she deserved to get stabbed in the neck like this? No. Does it sound like they had family issues? Yes. Does most people have family issues? Yes. So I don't know really what to do with that. The fact that he was making these threats, doing all this stuff, they're still having to live together. It's, I don't know what you do at that point. Second, please hold. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to start off. Let's start off with what the prosecutor is saying with the opening statements. Because, I mean, I just feel like, that's just how it goes. Okay. I mean, come on now. Where are those opening statements? Here they are. Okay. I said it should be. I said it over. Here we go. I just feel like, is this it? Here we go. Okay. No. Let's not do that one. Let's do this one. Okay, here we go. Alrighty, y'all. Please hold. Let's go ahead and crank this up to about a... Let's crank this up, start off at about a... I don't know, maybe a 1 point. Let's go with 1.5. Let's see how that sounds.
Mr. Levine, does the state wish to give an opening statement? Yes, you may proceed.
Y'all, can you hear it?
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It was a Sunday evening, September 8th of last year in Auburndale, Florida. And it was at that time that the defendant viciously and savagely unleashed his full fury and hatred towards his mother upon her. When he stabbed her with such force that the knife went shooting through her neck muscles, through her esophagus, through her trachea, through her thyroid cartilage, and shot out the other side of her neck. You will hear and see that as this happened, she began to bleed and bleed profusely through the huge gash in her neck. While she bled, the defendant was there and watched as the blood came out of the huge hole in her neck. You're going to hear that he was there as he watched the blood and the life drain from her body until she took her final breath and was officially dead. You're also going to hear that this was exactly what the defendant meant to do, and that this is exactly what the defendant had thought about doing and had wanted to do for quite some time. So much so that he told multiple people, including multiple Charlotte County Sheriff's Office deputies and his own grandfather, the father of the defendant's mother, Kathy Griffith. His name's Robert Willantis. You're going to hear from him. He'll fly in from New Mexico and he'll tell you about those haunting statements that the defendant made. And you're going to see that exactly what the defendant said he wanted to do and said that he would do, he accomplished on the night of September 8th of last year. But how did Kathy Griffith get there, bleeding out on her mother's kitchen floor? In order to understand that, we're going to have to take a step back and take a walk through some time. So you're going to see, of course, not just what happened on and around September 7th and September 8th, some of the critical time leading up to the murder, but you're also going to see and hear how this all began. Oh. Now, we're going to take a trip back to February 14th of 2023, the year prior to the defendant killing his mom. At that time, the defendant lived in Oklahoma. And you're going to hear on February 14th of 2023, the defendant killed somebody else when he shot that person 2 times. He shot that person in the chest and he shot that person in the head. You're going to hear that it was undisputed that he shot that person, that he was arrested for that killing, and that he has not been charged to this date. Now, after that killing, ladies and gentlemen, the defendant, as a little bit of time progressed, he moved back to Florida. He had been living with his dad for a number of years in Oklahoma, approximately 3 years or so. While he was living in Oklahoma with his dad, his mom lived in Florida in some different places, but including Port Charlotte most recently. And you're going to hear that while the defendant lived with his dad, the mom, as any mom would, greatly missed her son. And she didn't get an opportunity for different reasons, including a very controlling dad that the defendant was living with. So Kathy Griffith basically didn't have much contact with her son, not because she didn't want to, but she would try to call him and talk to him. And it pained her greatly that her son was not with her. You're going to hear that there's another brother, an older brother. He really doesn't have much to do with this case, but nonetheless, there was an older brother who lived with his mom, Kathy, for a period of time before he moved out of the house when he was old enough. So as the defendant moves to Florida, his mom wanted to make up for lost time. That was 3 years, 3 critical years of her life and his life when they didn't do mother-son things. They didn't spend time together. They didn't have all those opportunities that maybe other kids and other parents had. So Kathy, the defendant's mom, tried to make up for lost time. And she took her son on multiple vacations. They took cruises. They went to Disney World. They traveled out of the country. They went to Washington, D.C. And she spent all her time and affection and money on the defendant. That was her son. And that's who she had missed for all those years. Now, was Kathy Griffith the perfect parent? No. Was she the perfect person? No. But nobody is. But you're going to hear that she gave everything that she had, including her life, to try to take care of the defendant and spend as much time as she could with him, even at the cost of her life, which ultimately is what happened. Now, as the defendant and his mom lived in Charlotte County, in Port Charlotte, they lived in a house, a well-kept house. It was the two of them. And they did plenty of things together. Like I said, they went on vacations. They went to the movies. They hung out. It was just the two of them. So they had nothing but basically one-on-one time. And you're going to hear that Kathy Griffith, like any mom, expected certain things. These weren't off-the-wall, dictator-like things. These were simple things that she thought would be appropriate to teach her son about responsibility and respect. Chores, minimal chores, such as weed whack in the backyard, taking trash and food or candy out of his room, helping her around the house with whatever little odd jobs might happen. But you're going to see in here, the defendant wanted nothing of that. He didn't want to be inconvenienced. He didn't respect his mom. He didn't care about his mom. And wherever this deep-seated anger and hatred came from, it was real within him. And he told people about it. So as the days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months, his anger, as you'll see, was building and building.
I'm going to object to this being argumentative.
As the time went on, you'll see that the mom had to deal with a lot of issues, including being attacked by her own son. You'll hear a little bit about the defendant being arrested at a certain point for domestic violence battery. He was a juvenile, as he still is a juvenile. And you'll hear that he was put on some probation. But in essence, he was not happy with his mom. So he took her down to the ground and stomped on her hand. But they continue to live together. The mom, you'll hear, was afraid of the defendant and what ultimately might happen to her. And she was afraid he would kill her. But she loves him. And you're going to hear that she wanted to be with him. And she was cognizant of the fact that when he turned 18, he was probably going to leave the house. And that would, for all intents and purposes, end that one-on-one time. And he would continue on with his life however he saw fit. So it wasn't like every day was chaos or bedlam in the house. But the defendant had issues. The mom had some issues. But they were working through them. Now, sometimes they would go to the movies together. Sometimes there would be good days. And you're going to actually get to see kind of like an inside peek of some time on September 7th and September 8th, the day that the defendant killed his mom. You're going to see that in the form of Ring camera footage that Kathy had set up inside because she was so afraid of what her son might do to her. And you're going to see that there was cameras set up in different parts that basically captured the same or similar things. But you're going to get to see some footage from a kitchen camera that captures the kitchen as well as into the living room. So you're not going to have to sit through 48 hours or 72 hours of just nothing happening. But you're going to see some clips so you can kind of tell what the vibe was on those last 2 days of Kathy's life. You're also going to get to be able to see the timeline as it continues. We talked a little bit about jury selection, about a timeline, because nothing happens in a vacuum. So as the defendant's living with his mom, he starts making these statements that he wants to kill his mom, and that if he has to go back to his mom, he's going to kill her or do her harm or do himself harm. And he tries to make accusations against his mom that you'll see she was never arrested for anything as it pertains to the defendant. But nonetheless, he starts telling detectives, he starts telling deputies. And so the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office has different units, as does a lot of law enforcement agencies. And you'll hear that they took a proactive approach because they didn't want to see anything bad happen to the defendant, and they didn't want to see anything bad happen to the mom. So you'll hear that there were multiple deputies and detectives that would check in on the family, would check in on mom, would check in on the defendant. And their goal was to try to ensure that both parties got along and that, of course, they lived long, happy lives together. It didn't work out that way, not from a lack of their trying. So as the year continues, the defendant, as I mentioned, got arrested for the domestic violence battery. He got Baker acted a time or two. And when he would be about to be released, he would make statements. Basically, he would say he didn't want to go with his mom. If he went with his mom, he was afraid of what might happen, of his anger, that he would kill his mom. He also made statements that he was afraid that she would do something to him. But the reoccurring theme that you will hear from the witnesses from the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office is that the defendant verbalized what he ultimately did, which is that he would kill his mom. You'll hear from one or more deputies that even asked him, well, how are you going to do that? And he specifically mentioned, sometimes he would mention different things like shoot or stab, but a reoccurring theme was he would mention that he would stab his mom. So the intervention continued with the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office. They would talk to both Kathy on the phone, the defendant on the phone. They were accessible. They would call and check in. They would stop by the house and talk. And the defendant and his mom independently, they had the ability to call the deputies and the detectives as well. Now, 2024, around February 19th or so, around that time, or perhaps a little bit earlier, the defendant sent a text message. He had many communications with an attorney that was
I'm going to object based on you don't know what this is going to be in this law.
Approach.
Yeah, so this is giving Michael Myers. This is giving Halloween 5, part 15, or however many there are now. Oh, no, this looks handy. They can put these little things in instead of walking up there. He's like, oh, yeah, okay, here, yep, we hear it. I mean, what do you say, right? This is just where it's so bizarre to me. I mean, and this is what I think, clearly he has some kind of like behavioral issues, but it's like he killed his dad and then somehow got away with that, right? So at that age, yeah, I mean, he's just thinking, okay, my anger can do whatever it needs to do. If there's casualties in the way, I'm a kid, they'll get over it. I'll get by with it, whatever it is. clearly he thought he could get away with it with his mom too. Because one of the things we're gonna watch in a minute is number one, the 911 call, and then also I think one of the first responders things, the other two videos I pulled out to get that vibe. Because when I was watching it, the common theme for everybody was he seemed almost annoyed once the first responders got there, and then just nothing there, just nothing. Granted, there is the level of we don't know how we each react in a certain whatever situation, but this is, come on, no. Just no, this is crazy. Let's see. Look, hold on. I don't know why I'm even waiting for this. Hold on. Please help. Here we go. He's not, look, sorry.
Continuing on to some of the statements that the defendant made that explicitly forecasted what he did on September 8th of 2024. I mentioned the name Robert Willantis. Robert Willantis, as you'll hear, was Kathy Griffith's father. He is the maternal grandfather of the defendant. You're going to hear that Robert Willantis, of course, had a relationship with his grandson, loved his grandson, cared about his grandson, and still does. And the defendant told him something that was super, super disturbing, to say the least. You will hear from Robert Willantis that the defendant said to him that he wanted to kill his mom and how he was going to do it. And the defendant said, more than anything else, I want to slit her throat and feel her bleed out and feel the life leave her body. That's how much I hate her. You're going to hear that Mr. Willantis, needless to say, was absolutely shocked. And he told his grandson, that's sick. That's twisted. You can't do that. You and your mom have issues, and you're going to need to work through those issues. September 7th of last year. The morning started with Kathy buying her son, or letting him use her credit card to buy Starbucks. Bought a couple drinks, a breakfast sandwich, and the defendant came home. And this is going to be some of the ring footage that you see. So you'll be able to see some of these interactions. And you're going to see the mom and the son and some about how they're talking to each other and kind of what happened that day. The mom had minimal requests of the defendant. On that specific day, she wanted her son to help her put up a bookshelf. The defendant didn't want to be bothered. The mom wanted her son to weed whack the backyard. The defendant didn't want to be bothered. The mom wanted her son to clean up the food and the candy that was in his room, attracting ants, but the son didn't want to be bothered. You'll see that he had his Starbucks, he had his sandwich, he wanted to do what he wanted to do, which was he wanted to take a walk, get out of the house and exercise. So the end of the day, or sometime during the day, the end result is that the mom got fed up with him. Kathy was sick and tired of being disrespected, sick and tired of doing everything for her son, and basically told him, get out until you can show me some respect. Well, the defendant had no problem with that because he just wanted to do what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it. So he went to his grandma's house. So that's how the defendant and his mom in Port Charlotte County, how their lives come to Polk County. Because the defendant's grandmother, who is Kathy's mom, her name is Susan Detman. Her and Robert Willantis used to be married back in the day. She had multiple houses, one in the Keys, one in Auburndale, and perhaps one somewhere else too. So the defendant got in his car. It was a nice Volkswagen, black four-door. You'll hear and see that the mom had a white four-door Volkswagen. And the defendant drove to his grandma's house in Auburndale. And you'll see and hear at his grandma's house, he didn't have to put up with his mom asking him to do things or to be respectful or to do chores. You also hear that during the relationship between Kathy and her son, she got him video games. She got him a phone. She let him use her credit card to fill up, and use his bank card to fill up gas. She provided food. Of course, she provided shelter, clothes. I mean, the basic necessities, but she did more than that. The defendant you're going to hear and see is a very smart individual. He was in high school and was, I believe, taking college courses and had an interest in the law. And you're going to see that he's a fairly smart individual, and he would use that knowledge to try to do certain things. So on September 7th, the defendant leaves. The mom is at home, and the mom's angry. She's not happy. Does she want to hurt Collin or kill him or do anything to him? No. She's mad because she knows that her time with her son is slipping away. He's 17 years old by now. Incidentally, he was almost 16 when he killed the individual in Oklahoma. Now he's 17 years old on September 7th and September 8th. So mom is not happy because he's disrespecting her. He's not doing the chores. She's busting her rear end doing everything for this kid who's ungrateful. and she's mad. But nonetheless, she wants him home. She doesn't want him with her mom. She doesn't want him out running the streets or not knowing where he is. So she continually texts him and calls him. Her only desire is to get him home, not to be mad at him or hurt him or ground him. She's willing basically to bend over backwards, as you'll see from the evidence, to just be with him. That's what she wants, is just time with him. You're going to get to see through text messages between her and him, her state of mind and what was going on. And the defendant was basically just blowing her off. He didn't want to be aggravated. But you're going to see kind of the mom was frantic, and once again, frantic in terms of being a mom and wanting to know where her son was and wanted her son back in her house. So she started to give him ultimatums, things that she wasn't going to follow through on. Some of the things. She was hoping not to have to follow through on any of these things. But you're going to see that she was saying, if you don't come home, I'm going to sell your car. If you don't come home, I'm going to cancel your insurance. I'm going to turn off your phone. And she would turn off the phone that she provided for him multiple times. She would turn off his phone. She would take away his computer. All things that she bought. She bought him a computer for school. She bought him a phone because, of course, that's what parents do. And you'll see when you're a child, you can't get a cell phone with AT&T or have an account with AT&T if you're not 18 or older. So he was relying upon his mom, and happy to do so, because she made sure that he had everything that he wanted. So she was saying these things because basically she was hoping that he would be afraid of them and would come home, but he could care less, as you'll see. But then the Oklahoma killing resurfaces. And you're going to see that besides just pure anger and hatred towards his mom, that his motive, an additional motive for killing her, was what she texted him. Because he was concerned that Oklahoma killing was going to come back around. Of course, it was still under investigation and still is, but that was going to be reopened. And you're going to see firsthand why the defendant didn't want that to happen and why that just infuriated him even more towards a mom that he hated and couldn't stand for no good reason. You're going to see firsthand that Kathy texted her son between 12 and 12:29, and he received it. And she texted him, Collin, the recordings of you admitting to killing, and then she stated who it was, and planning the murder. There are 4 different instances from my Ring camera, are all going to Bob, Susie, Amanda, and Chris at 3 p.m. today. And mind you, this is the day that he murders her, shortly thereafter. She continues on. Plus, the recovered audio from Chuck's iCloud. Chuck is the defendant's father, Kathy's ex-husband. So Kathy continues on. Plus, the recovered audio from Chuck's iCloud, where you told your dad you hated me and I was an evil bitch, are being sent too. My dad is sending me his recordings of you telling him how you planned my murder back in February. Audio, video, emails, texts, and phone records are all being sent. For the record, no, you cannot have a single one. Your attorney can request them. She continues on. All because you didn't want to help me mount a bookshelf. That took under 30 minutes. Weed eat the backyard and clean your room because bugs were in the candy you had all over. Remember, you chose this. You have 10 minutes to call me and fix this, Collin. When the defendant read that text, his anger level just rose even more. Later that same afternoon, Kathy pressed it even more. And she sent a text to her mom, Susan Detman. And mind you, the location where the defendant had run to was Susan's house, his grandma's house. She was down in the Keys at one of her houses, so Collin had free range of the place. Hey, no rules, nothing to do. He could do whatever he wants to do. Nobody's even there to supervise him. And that's why he would like to go places where there were no supervision. I mean, specifically his grandma's. So Susan was in contact with the defendant because she was driving up from the Keys, and the defendant was staying at the house there. So Kathy texted Susan a similar text message. And she texted her mom, Collin's grandmother, tell Collin the recordings of him admitting to killing, and then she stated who the person was, and planning the murder. There are 4 different instances from my Ring camera, are all going to Bob, Susie, Amanda, and Chris at 3 p.m. today. Plus, the recovered audio from Chuck's iCloud, where Collin told his dad he hated me and I was an evil bitch, are being sent too. Dad is sending me his recordings of Collin telling him how he planned my murder back in February. Audio, video, emails, texts, and phone records are all being sent. For the record, no, you cannot have a single one. Your attorney can request them, so can Collin's. You're going to see that afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, in an eerie video, Kathy changes her clothes. I mean, you're not going to see her change her clothes, but you're going to see she appears in the exact clothes that her son would kill her in just mere hours later. And you're going to see that she had on some blue jean shorts. She had on a black t-shirt with a coffee motif. And she had a nice leather purse/backpack over her shoulder. And she left the house. And she was not happy. She was not happy at her mom. She was not happy at Collin. But she had one thing that she wanted to accomplish, which was not to do her son any harm, but to get him home so they could continue being mother and son. So she made the drive from Port Charlotte to Polk County. And you're going to hear that at a certain point, she arrived sometime in the ballpark of 5 o'clock, shortly before the defendant would murder her. Now, there were 2 ladies across the street in separate houses, But you have the grandmother's house on one side of the street, and then basically the two neighbors that lived across the street from the grandma, two nice ladies you'll hear from. But they both kind of independently saw and heard things. And you're going to hear that at around 5 o'clock, and one of the witnesses, I believe it was Miss Sally Bell, she remembers the time frame because she was about to leave for church. And she and her husband, you'll hear that they always like to leave right around 5 o'clock or touch before 5 in order to get to church and to talk to people and get a seat. So around 5 o'clock, these two ladies, Sally Bell and Nancy Jones, independently, they're just at their houses. They see Kathy and they see the defendant, and they're having an obvious argument. They also see that Kathy is not doing anything violent to the defendant, but she's animated and the defendant is animated. And then they saw the defendant grab his mom by the hair and start dragging her from the driveway carport into the house. And as that happens, Kathy is telling her son, Collin, stop, let go of me, you're hurting me. And that's the last that those two neighbors saw of Kathy Griffith. That's the last anyone would see of Kathy Griffith alive. You're going to have an opportunity to see crime scene footage and crime scene video, and you're going to see that the violence continued and started on that day when the defendant grabbed his mom by the hair and dragged her into the house as she was saying, let me go, Collin, you're hurting me. You're going to hear and see that this mom was doing nothing violent or physical to her son, who she took care of and loved. But the defendant thought it was all right to grab his mom by the hair and yank her into the house. Well, what happened on the way to the house? Kathy, one of her AirPods falls out, it falls in the mulch. The defendant drags her into the house, infuriated. Another earpod falls out of her other ear. You're going to see photos that Kathy would wear AirPods a lot to talk on the phone, listen to music. You're going to hear as he dragged her and was furious. You're going to see her AirPod case falls in the living room as he continues to drag her to the back of the house, letting his anger and rage come out. You're going to see the crime scene of that brutal, vicious, savage killing that I mentioned at the beginning of the opening statement. You're going to see pictures of Kathy who came out of her flip-flops as the defendant was attacking her. You're going to see photographs of a charger that is strewn about on the floor from when the defendant was attacking her. You're going to see that same brown leather backpack / purse that was over her shoulder when the defendant was attacking her came crashing to the ground. And you're going to see that it's got blood all over the place. That when he stabbed her, she was still holding it. There's blood on the outside. There's blood on the inside. There's blood on the front, on the back, on the wallet. And you will see firsthand the carnage that Kathy suffered as she laid in the pool of blood that came out of that deep gash in her neck, compliments of her son, Collin Griffith. When all the evidence is in, ladies and gentlemen, you should come to one conclusion. That being that the just verdict is holding the defendant responsible to what he chose to do on September 8th of 2024. And that just verdict, based upon the evidence that you will see and hear, is that you find the defendant guilty of both first-degree murder and kidnapping for the crimes that he perpetrated on his own mother.
Wow. Okay. Let me find y'all. So yeah, extremely brutal. Extremely brutal. And Down Under says, I saw a couple of neighbors testifying and didn't call the police. I mean, yeah, there's so much going on here, right? Because I guess the part with this that kind of throws me is the fact that it happened before with the dad. So it's like he proved that he would do this, right? Now I get, like, I try and like look at both sides of it, where it's like, okay, well, even then, so she's like wanting to make up for lost time. He's living with her. I mean, I would think even then, so you would be like, well, he certainly wouldn't do this to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're never thinking that your kid's going to do something to this level. She's also wanted to be a parent and teach him a lesson. I mean, he sounds just unruly. You know what I mean? Like, he's just going to do what he wants to do and this, that, and the other. And then there probably was also a little bit of a fear there. But then you heard her also talking about where, like, she would be like, well, if you don't do this, I'm going to do this. And if you don't do that or whatever. Now, this dynamic here of, pardon me, you know, I'm going to expose you for this because of this. And then hours later, she's dead. There you go. You know, I'm sure, because think about like how you are when you're a teenager. You think you're invincible anyways. You think you can, nothing, the rules don't apply to you. The world's not really real yet. Your brain's not finished forming. Well, he already got mad and killed his dad at one point. You know what I mean? He was probably like, I can get away with it again. Okay, now what we're going to do, let me pull the next thing up. Please hold. Let's do the 911 phone call. I said, let's do the 911 phone call. Let's do the 911 phone call. Please hold.
For the record, what is it?
165 is the 911 call.
Is there any objection?
No objection, but
It is received. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Griffith has elected to waive his presence in the courtroom during the publication of States 165. Mr. Griffith?
He said, I'm going to step out. So from a legal perspective, this is probably a good idea because, you know, everybody was going to be wanting to look at his face.
Mr.
And see how
Levine,
he
you may
reacted,
publish.
if that's why he did it. Thanks, Lori. Lost Run, and that would be fun to do a terrible musical. That would be amazing.
18/14/11, 2nd September 8, 2024.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
Hampton in Florida. I don't know the fucking I don't know the city address. My mom is talking to EMS now. She's bleeding out. Please help.
Your mom is doing what?
My mom's bleeding out. She's bleeding out.
Okay, what's the address, or where do you think you are? What road are you off of? What road crosses that road?
So the Hampton in Florida. You go to the gate and you take the first right, and it's the house with the black dead outside. I'm trying to get
The Hampton Inn?
the Hampton Inn. Yes, ma'am.
What city is it in?
Well, it's Auburndale. I created a community. I can't get her up. Okay, how do I lift someone? I need to get her to the hospital. How do I lift someone?
Okay, listen, you called 911, so we're going to send an ambulance.
She doesn't have time. She's leaving it. She's fucking failed. She doesn't have time. She needs to go now.
Okay, and I'm using the address I see you at. Is that right? Is that where you are?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
What can I do? I have your price after. She's fucking what the fuck do I do?
Help is being sent. Stay on the line so I can get more information for the responders.
I am. I don't know what to do.
Okay, help is being sent. Okay, medical help is being sent.
She's bleeding out.
Where is she bleeding from, sir?
She's bleeding from the neck, ma'am. She's my mother.
Are you with the patient now?
I'm with her now.
How old is the patient?
She's 39 years old. She has a heart condition. She has a
Is she awake?
no, she's unconscious. She's not
Okay, is she breathing?
No, she's not. I don't think she's alive.
Okay, where is it? Okay, and you said neck. Okay. All right, listen to me. I'm sending the paramedics to help you now. Stay on the line. I'll tell you exactly what to do next. Okay, listen to me. Are you right by her now?
I am by her. Yes, I don't.
Okay, listen carefully. Lay her flat on her back on the floor and remove anything under her head.
Okay, she's good. She's good. Okay, I did it right now.
Okay. Listen carefully, and I'll tell you how to do chest compressions. Make sure she is flat on her back on the ground. Place the heel of your hand on the breastbone in the center of the chest, right between the nipples. Put your other hand on top of that hand.
Let's take off the shirt.
Just do what make sure she is flat on her back on the floor. Place the heel of your hand on the breastbone in the center of the chest, right between the nipples. Put your other hand on top of the hand. Okay. All right, pump the chest hard and fast, at least twice per second and 2 inches deep. Let the chest come all the way up between pumps. We're going to do this until help can take over. Count out loud so I can count with you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. One moment. Okay, just keep going, okay? So listen, what caused the bleeding? Listen, what caused the bleeding?
She got real tight and she didn't even know she fell on it.
Where is the knife right now? And who is she getting a fight with?
We got real tight for a long time and then she got on top of me and fell on it and pushed it back. The knife came in. Yeah, I don't have it. I'll try it across the board.
Where is the knife?
I just put it across the floor right here.
And is the bleeding controlled?
She stopped bleeding. No more blood coming out. She blocked it.
Where did you throw the knife?
I go to my right.
You threw it to your right? It was totally away from you.
It's away from me.
Where's your mother?
I'm over her. I'm trying to save her.
Where are you? Where's her? Where are you?
I was in the kitchen, in the house, and the door is unlocked.
Okay, you're with your mother, correct? Okay, listen to me. Listen to me, please. Stop, okay? Listen to me, and I'm going to tell you how to control the bleeding. Okay?
Okay.
All right, hold on.
There's no more blood coming out of the wound. He's lost it all.
Okay, listen, okay? We're going to do this, okay? Okay, listen to me. Get a clean, dry cloth or a towel and tell me when you have it.
My son is down low.
Okay. Okay. All right. Does she have a bleeding disorder or is she normally on blood thinners? No. Okay. I'm sending the paramedics to help you now. Stay on the line. I'll tell you exactly what to do next. Okay. Okay, I'm going to tell you how to stop the bleeding. Listen carefully to make sure we do it right. Get a clean, dry cloth or towel and tell me when you have it. And now place it right on the wound and press down firmly. Don't lift it up to look. Without lifting the cloth up, please tell me if the bleeding is under control now.
Yes, there's no blood. She lost all her blood.
Okay, reassure her that help is on the way from now on. Don't let them have anything to eat or drink. It might make her sick or cause further problems. Don't move her unless it's absolutely necessary. Just tell her to be still and wait for help to arrive. Okay, listen to me, okay? Okay, we're gonna continue with CPR. Listen to me. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Listen, I need you to keep doing this. Listen, okay? I need you to keep doing this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep doing it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Are they there? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Are they inside? Hello? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Let me tell you what, 911 phone calls, woo, they always get me. And yeah, Zen, I'm the same way. I wouldn't make it past day one. Literally, if I was her on that phone at the level of disturbedness, that would never leave me for the rest of my life. God forbid, like when you hear it gives me goosebumps even thinking about it. When you hear these 911 phone calls of children calling, and it's like a legitimate, like they've either witnessed something happen to their parents or like an accident, you know what I'm saying? Oh my, I mean, look at me. I can't handle it. You know, I cannot handle that at all. I would be saying weird stuff too if I was on the phone, whatever. I'd be like, but yeah, I don't think he was trying to do that. Obviously, that was not helping the situation. You know, but again, I mean, she doesn't know, like they have to go through their little things or whatever. But I mean, you heard he's getting upset towards the end, but honestly, you know, and again, I'm not a therapist or anything like this, but I think it's the realization of, oh God, this is real. I went overboard this time. Here we go again. You know, whether he gets completely just goes off on a thing when he gets angry and does something and then comes back down. And it's like, oh my God, what I've done? I don't know. Clearly there's some form of a pattern since this is the second time he's done this. But I mean, I think a large part of the upsetness was like for himself, you know what I'm saying? And then I like what, you know, not like he woke up and said, what did I do? But something of that vibe. Now, the last video I picked up was like kind of representative of a lot of the testimony I was listening to. And so let's just listen to that. Please hold. Oh, heaven. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, sorry.
So what you said, Bill?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right. Good afternoon, Captain Parker. May you please introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm Captain James Parker. I work for Polk County Fire Rescue.
Being a captain at PCFR, what are your responsibilities?
I oversee the daily operations and duties of Station 39, which is off of East Main Street for Polk County Fire Rescue, meaning the engine into rescue companies that run medical calls and fires in that area.
Tell the jury about your education and training and experience.
General high school education, and then you proceed on to a fire academy, which you are completed from that with fire standards. Then proceed on to first responder EMT, which are semester-long programs, a year of paramedic, and then subsequent classes in driver engineer school, as well as fire officer 1, which is another 5 or 6 courses to which you can then test and get certified to be a captain.
To attain the rank of captain, did you have to come up through the ranks and work the different positions?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And how many years have you been on the job?
With Polk County Fire Rescue, this will be year 11 for me.
All right. Now, Captain Parker, during your time in your position, not necessarily just as a captain, but just in your career, have you had the opportunity to respond to many different scenes where somebody has been injured?
Yes, sir. On average, about 2,000 calls a year.
During those many, many calls, have you ever seen a victim that has been stabbed, that had a stab wound?
There's been quite a few. I'm not sure as to how many.
All right. I want to direct your attention to this case particularly. What was your responsibility as it pertains to September 8th of 2024?
My crew and myself were dispatched to a call. It was dispatched as an assault call, which is a generic code out for something that was put in through dispatch. We were responding per our policy. We staged at a short distance away until law enforcement is able to arrive on scene and make sure the scene is secured and safe. At which time we then proceed on scene and provide any medical need or necessity of the victim/patients.
Did you enter the residence to see the victim?
Yes, sir.
Describe to the jury what you saw.
We entered through the front door, went through the living room area, back into the kitchen, at which point they were escorting the accused out of the residence. The victim herself was laying on the kitchen floor, supine, and with a pool of blood.
What does supine mean?
On her back.
Now, did she have any signs of life whatsoever?
No, sir.
The pale color, what is that indicative of?
Typically of blood loss or poor circulation.
Is she checked for a pulse and her vitals and whatnot?
Yes, sir. Per usual, we arrive on scene, check the patient's responsiveness. She was not responsive, to which I could then tell she was not breathing. A pulse was checked for and not obtained, as she did not currently have one. CPR was initiated for a brief few seconds until further extended injuries could be checked, and then it was determined among the crew and myself that the injuries were not sustainable.
So based upon the severity of the stab wounds, was there anything you could further do for her?
No, sir.
Now, what can you tell the jury about what you saw pertaining to the stab wound?
The stab wound itself did not seem to be very wide. It was kind of narrow in size. Upon further inspection after starting the CPR, it was obvious that every time I did a compression, there was air that was coming through the wound itself. So it was obviously pretty deep. It looked like a lot of the vasculature and the stuff inside of the wound itself was very obvious and could be seen. And that they had cut major areas such as the arteries.
Okay. What was the terminology used? The vascular?
Vasculature, yes, sir.
What does that mean?
Meaning the tissue and stuff surrounding.
So the inside of her neck was apparent. You could actually see what was inside?
Yes, sir.
What was the defendant's demeanor like?
From my personal experience, it was a little odd in nature. He didn't seem very distraught or upset. He seemed kind of calm upon my entering the residence. And then upon exiting the residence, he seemed to almost have a, not a full argument, but somewhat argumentative with the deputies that were trying to assist him out of the residence.
Now, during the 11 years when you've interacted with different people at a scene similar to this, I mean, is there any one way to act, or do you see it all?
No, it's different for each person.
Okay. Was the way that you described the defendant's demeanor, did that stand out? Did that stand out compared to the other scenes you've been to? Yeah, that's not. I mean, like I said, I've seen several, and to be distraught, to be upset, or to be in tears or even hysterical is pretty common. I would say that's what I see most of the time, and he didn't seem to be any of those. All right, Captain Parker, I don't have any further questions for you.
Thank you. Cross.
Captain Parker, do you have any psychological training?
No, ma'am, I do not.
You did say that there is no one right way for somebody to act after they've been through either a fight or a traumatic experience, right?
I did say that.
So you cannot say what was going on inside of Collin's mind or heart when you saw him, can you?
No, ma'am, I didn't say what was going on inside of him.
And you have no idea what he's been through in his life and what coping mechanisms he has devised or that he has had to come up with to survive those things, do you?
No, ma'am, I've never met him before this.
Okay. And you have no idea what happened in that kitchen before you arrived, do you?
No, ma'am, I cannot speculate as to that.
Thank you.
Redirect.
Captain Parker, was the stab wound that you saw consistent with the victim being stabbed by somebody?
I would think so.
All right. No further questions, John.
Is the witness released?
No objection, Your Honor.
Started. Thank you, sir. You're free to go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Owen Mullen, OWEN, I'm a firefighter paramedic for Polk County Fire Rescue.
Tell the jury about your training and experience.
So I started in New York State in about 2017, 2018 as a firefighter EMT. I became a paramedic in 2021. I moved here in 2022, or actually 2023. I've worked at Polk County Fire Rescue since I moved here.
And in your current position, what are your responsibilities?
So on my crew, I'm the lead paramedic. I work on the ambulance. So I make patient care decisions.
And was that what you were working September 8th of last year?
Yes.
Tell the jury about how you responded to the crime scene in this case.
We were dispatched to, I believe, an assault call. While we were responding to there, we got information on our dispatch that the patient had gotten an injury to her neck. She was bleeding. She was not conscious. And the dispatch was giving the caller life-saving instructions. And then we were going to stage in the area for a police to secure the scene.
Did you have an opportunity to actually go inside the house?
Yeah, once we the deputies cleared the scene, we went in and I found the patient in the kitchen.
What did you notice about the patient?
She was lying face up. She had a wound to her neck. It was narrow and very deep, and she was no longer bleeding. She was not conscious.
And from the very deep wound, did you have any further thoughts about the nature of the wound?
You could see all the way back to her neck very easily. You could see her vasculature, her muscle tissue were obviously visible. And that type of injury is incompatible with life.
Did you have an opportunity to observe the defendant's demeanor on scene?
I did not directly interact with him, but when I did notice him, he was outside talking with the deputies. He did not appear upset, and he was almost kind of annoyed with their questioning of him.
Have you been to other scenes where somebody's family member, spouse, or close friend has been killed?
Yes, very frequently.
All right. And what do you typically see there?
Typically, they'd be very upset and hysterical, although it is different for every person.
Did the defendant's demeanor seem out of the ordinary to you?
Yes.
Were you the one that eventually declared the victim officially deceased?
Yes.
And at what time was that?
I believe at 1827.
That being 6:27 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, is that? I understand that's the official time you write down, but is it a fair statement that she could have been dead? Obviously, before that time. That's just when you declared her dead.
Yes, that time is when we called on the radio. I declared her deceased.
What happens if
her actual time of death could have been before then?
Okay, gotcha. Do you declare a time of death if you arrive to a scene like a day or two after somebody's been dead?
Yes, because we are normally the first medical provider that sees that person, and usually when we declare that's the time of death that stays with the patient, unless there's some other circumstances.
Okay, so as you said earlier, though, the patient could have died in a general sense, minutes, hours, days before. Correct. Not in this particular case, but just in general sense?
Correct.
All right, I have no further questions.
Thank you. Cross-exam.
Sir.
Mr. Mullen, how many Polk County Fire Rescue personnel entered the kitchen?
We had a crew of 5 on my crew. I have a partner on the ambulance, and we had 3 on the engine. So I believe all 5 of us had entered. So I believe 5.
5 people entered the actual kitchen.
Correct.
And how many people laid hands on or got close enough to apply like the little stickers we see on Miss Griffith's body?
Myself, my captain who just testified, and then one of my firefighter EMTs had placed those stickers on. Those are the 3 I know. I don't believe anyone else actually had touched her directly.
The area where she was laying was quite confined, right?
Yes.
And the scene was messy when you arrived,
Yes.
as far as blood?
Yes.
Today, while you were waiting to testify, did you talk about your testimony with any of the other witnesses, say your partner or the captain or the deputies who also responded and cleared the scene for you?
Not exactly. You're just making conversation.
Didn't talk about this case at all?
We talked about the case, but not what we were going to say.
Okay.
So, pardon me. So you see this was the general vibe of like what everybody had to say, right? I know, right? Sherry says that she's trying to get the case thrown out. I know. I'm kind of like, I mean, I get she's like doing her thing, but I'm also like, You know, when he said that, you know, they got there and saw the neck and it's like it's not compatible with life. I mean, and I don't know the medical stuff, but it sounded to me like he was saying like it, you know, you could see like back in here in her neck, you know, and like when they did the CPR thing, they probably technically have to, and they probably saw like, yeah, like shoot, this is, you know, yeah, right, Mac. Yeah, you can see the horror in his face when he describes it. I mean, can you imagine seeing that? Like that's anger. That's anger, you know. And of course, they don't really know what they're walking into, right? It's like, okay, we got this phone call. She fell on a knife, you know, whatever they know going into it. Yeah, and the thing is so they're trying him. Pardon me. They're trying him as an adult. He's 17. I mean, I guess he was what 16 at the time of it. Uh, I don't know how the law works because you know how like they do the even if they and I don't know what this is, but it's like even if you get tried as an adult, but you were under a certain age, and I think that varies from state to state. I don't know exactly, but I mean, maybe he would qualify for that. I don't know. Sandy asked if she was stabbed more than once. I feel like it was twice, but I don't know. Don't hold me to that. Tori says not compatible means there's absolutely nothing they can do, even if they teleported her into surgery. Thank you for that clarification, Tori. Yeah, I mean, ugh. Imagine the look, not the look on her face, but the realization that she had in that last moment of when he did that. You know, her last waking moments, regardless of what was going on between them and like whatever. But you like literally that last image of that, because you know he had to look like the pure devil himself if he was that angry enough to do that. Oh, that's interesting, Emily. What do you think? Like, in what way? So is it mandatory 40 years parole after? But okay. Oh, excuse me. Hey, Aaron. His defense is, from what I can understand, that they got in an argument and she fell on the knife. Hey, Akasha says, hold on, where'd you go? It varies from state to state. Carly Gregg 14, got life without parole. Hers was not even close to as gruesome as this. Oh, that's right, Carly Gregg. Kat says Florida, no DP under 18. Jody Arias. It's very, very personal to me. Like with a murder like this, whether it's choking or stabbing, I mean, even shooting close range, but like this, it's like you're feeling that. You're feeling that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's very personal. We had a 10-year-old try as an adult. Wow. That's crazy. Do you know what ended up happening with him, Emily? If he's being charged an adult, he would get sentenced just like an adult would, go to a state prison. Guilty went to juvie until 18, then to prison. Okay. Yeah, my eyes are starting to go. I'm trying to sit here. I vaguely remember hearing about that one. Yeah, I'd be curious to know like where somebody that went into the system that young is at. My God. You know, somebody earlier asked about Chandler Halderson, I believe was his name. Remember that one? Yeah, I wonder what like he's doing. I mean, that hasn't been that long, but nonetheless. So yeah, we'll see what happens with this. I mean, so far, I mean, again, with the defense and whatnot, I don't there's not much getting around it. You know what I'm saying? Like it kind of is what it is. Especially the component where the father situation was already, you know, already happened. Chrissy says, I'm the most uncoordinated person. I would fall on a knife. Same. Like, if that was going to happen, I would do it. The jury doesn't know about the father. Oh, excuse me. But yeah, so this one's going on right now. Another one that's going on is that that people are talking about. I might try and catch up on that one tomorrow. Is the one with the hair, the guy out in, I think, California, the mistress one. So that's been like going heavy or whatever. Oh. Yeah, the father one was a self-defense situation. And to me, it sounded like, and I mean, I get this. It sounded to me like the family was wanting to, and I don't know if the right word is protect him, but the Fabio one, to, you know what I mean? Almost like, okay, well, let's get him going. He did this, but, let's protect him from the consequences type situation. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens. So, yeah, I feel like he was definitely a teenager. Obviously, he was a teenager when he did that. I was like a couple of years beforehand, something like that. Yeah, the Fabio one. Yeah, the Fabio one, and I don't remember. And if you're in here, claim your fame. But at CrimeCon, I'm sorry, there's a lady there who I talked to for us. She was so much fun. She bought me a drink. I believe it's this case. She talked to him, or she worked for this guy. She was kind of like slightly involved in this case or whatever. And so that was the last CrimeCon that we were at. Pardon me. The Nashville one, right? The Nashville one, yeah. And so she was talking about it, the Fabio one. And so when this came up, I thought it already happened, right? And so this came up, and I was like, "What? That's going on now?" So yeah. Anyways, yeah, the hairdresser guy. Yeah, that's what it was. Not the hair carrier, but the hairdresser. Oh, okay, y'all. Well, I am going to run. I am getting my evening headache that tells me it is time for me to go to bed. But thank you for looking over this stuff with me. I greatly appreciate it. And so what we'll do is I don't know if we'll do anything tomorrow night live chat wise or not. We'll see. Then over the weekend or whatever, I'm gonna try and catch up on this some, and then we're gearing up for the Megan Boswell trial next week. So there is that. Okay. Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Tori. Thank you, Indy. And thank you, Silva Squad, for hanging out this evening for a little bit and going over this stuff. It always makes it much better to catch up with you all. So that's it. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your evening and wonderful Friday. And I will talk to y'all very soon. Night, night.